After a week of glory, Zimbabwe cricket fans came crushing down to earth following an agonizing fall in Bulawayo in the hands of Scotland. The lads failed to qualify for the Cricket World Cup. Good evening and welcome to this edition of the weekly roundup, an insightful review of the hottest news which made headlines over the past week. My name is Unique Zimuto on HSTV and these are the headlines. Harare Mayor calls VP Chiwenga a liar. Chamisa heads to Bindura for Triple C campaign launch as polls heat up. Presidential candidate out to deny ED victory. Government parcels out mining rights to chiefs and war veterans. Joanna Mamombe Cecilia Chimbiri acquitted. Judge shames magistrate. Kasukuwere still campaigning from South Africa. ED warns police over vote ahead of ballot casting postal ballot. Join me after this break for the news in greater detail.
Usasaririre iwe, famba ne time, famba ne chokwadi, famba ne e-paper.
Welcome back to the weekly roundup, and here are the news in greater detail. Harare Mayor Jacob Mafume has hit back at Vice President Constantino Chiwenga, saying he has lied and ill-informed on the road situation in Harare. Mafume was responding to Chiwenga's public utterances at a rally in Mbare. The vice president told ZANU-PF supporters that government did not have any responsibility in fixing roads in towns and cities. The outspoken mayor urged the vice president to read.
Migwagwa arisi basa rehurumende kuvaka kugadzira migwagwa iri mumadhorobha. Imi munobhadhara maretsi, imi munobhadhara mutero. Mari yacho inoendepi? Pano ndine pepa panapa yekuti kanzuru yakawana 212 billion 927 million 117,500. Pamari apa 45% iri kuenda kumasarari. Toti ndozo makabvuma imi makavhotera. Ko imwe 55% iri kupi? Iripi?
My direct response is that Vice President Chiwenga was given a wrong brief. His officers lied to him and they made him read figures that were not accurate. We will invite him, or we are willing to sit down with the Vice President and lay out the facts bare to him. The facts are clear like a God's behind. No money has been coming to the City Council to repair the roads. And if we give him an adequate briefing, an accurate briefing, he will be able to see that whoever wrote the brief for him and gave him those figures was lying to no less than the Vice President of the country. The responsibility currently lies with Zinara in terms of the law. Zinara collects all the money from vehicle licenses, it collects all the money from fuel levies and gives a small little pittance to the city councils. The government, in its wisdom or lack thereof, decided to give central control of road making, just in as much as they gave central control to ZESA for energy making when us councils used to provide electricity for our own residents. And that experiment is an experiment which must be abandoned, which cannot work and has proved that it cannot work. And we should restore settings, go back to basics and do things like what we used to do when these roads were made, when electricity was available to the residents.
The Triple C will this weekend launch its election campaign in Bindura. Nelson Chamisa, who poses the most legitimate challenge for State House, will test his mojo in Mashonaland Central as the party continues to battle the internal scourge of the double nominations. Chamisa, who has led the opposition since the death of Morgan Tsvangirai, has promised to deliver victory on August the 23rd. The Triple C has been facing resistance as police ban some of Chamisa's rallies. Party spokesperson Fadzai Mahere speaks to us.
This weekend, on Sunday, the 9th of July, all roads lead to Bindura, where the Triple C will be hosting its mega launch for the national campaign. So, tukuku kokai mose, vagari, vemu Bindura, vemu Mash Central, nevemu Zimbabwe yose, hande itose ku Bindura, tigonzwa vachamisa vachitudza, gwara rachafamba naro muma campaign atichaita. We are moving towards a new great Zimbabwe that's going to work for everyone. Siyabonga. I mean, we are well aware that ZANU-PF will do everything it can to try and stop the Triple C, because they know they can never win a free and fair election in Zimbabwe. So ZANU-PF continues to abuse state institutions by trying to ban our rallies. They're trying to stop us from mobilizing. But what they don't realize is that we've been mobilizing citizens, especially in the rural areas, for over a year now. The campaign rallies are just icing on the cake, but our message has already gone out there. So no amount of intimidation, harassment, or any attempts to block us by ZANU-PF will succeed. In fact, all the data points to a Triple C victory. Even if you look at ZANU-PF, their party, their leader, they know they're losing. That's why they're trying to squash the opposition. But unfortunately for them, nothing can stop a revolution and change and transformation whose time has come.
Presidential candidate Wilbert Mubaiwa says while he's in the presidential race, he's not in it to win it, but to force change in the political space in Zimbabwe. Speaking to Blessed Mhlanga on Free Talk this Thursday, Mubaiwa, a former advisor and funder of the Joyce Mujuru presidential campaign, said he was looking to be a power broker after the August 23 general elections.
I will refer to Makoni. I think you know what he did in 2008. He got 8.5%. The idea is not to generally become president of this country. The idea is to be able to cause change. Whether by way of your participation in the private sector or in government. I think we need to force or to convince people that we can cause change so that they give us their vote. They must give us a vote which makes it impossible for anyone to govern without us.
Mubaiwa also challenged President Mnangagwa's claims that his government has created over 3 million jobs, saying his statements were only political banter.
A total of 3,902,301 jobs were created.
Where are they? Because can you put 3 million jobs on Byte Bridge, Chirundi Road? Where are these jobs? Where is the construction when you drive around? So, and when you have got 3 million jobs, it should be evident everywhere. You can't have so many people in the informal sector when you create so many jobs. So I think let's separate between election rhetoric and what is on the ground.
A total of 11 candidates are vying for presidency in the upcoming elections, with the top contenders being President Emmerson Mnangagwa and Chamisa. Former ZANU-PF political commissar Xavier Kasukuwere is a dark horse and a potential thorn in the flesh for the ruling party. Government announced that it will be parceling mining rights to chiefs and war veterans in reserved areas, a move seen as an election power play ahead of the polls. The ZANU-PF-led government's move ahead of the polls is seen as an attempt to placate the chiefs and war veterans ahead of a crucial election in President Mnangagwa's political life. Chiefs and war veterans have remained at the crux of the ZANU-PF mobilization strategy and have been their election-winning ticket.
Cabinet wishes to advise the nation that it granted the request by the following traditional chiefs to acquire mining titles in reserved areas for the benefit of their communities. There is Tefra Mining Syndicate in Manicaland for Chief Marange. There is Goromonzi Mining Trust, where there are 3 chiefs, Chief Rusike, Chief Chinamora, Chief Chikwaka. Then there's the Chinamora Mining Syndicate with Chief Chinamora and his community. Chiwara Mining Syndicate, Chief Chiwara and the community. Bere SP Mining Syndicate and Budiro Mining Syndicate, Chief Chiweshe. Cabinet further granted the request by war veterans for mining titles.
Nearly 3 years after Triple C members Joanna Mamombe and Cecilia Chimbiri were arrested, harassed and vilified by the state of allegedly lying, the duo has been acquitted. Mamombe Chimbiri and Natsai Marova, who were allegedly abducted in the hands of the police, who were later arrested in 2020 for allegedly faking their own abduction and subsequently charged with communicating information prejudicial to the state. In delivering her ruling on review, High Court Judge Justice Nyaradzo Mnangati Manongwa, Shame Chief Magistrate Faith Mushure open court making a grossly unreasonable decision, close quotes. The magistrate Mushure had ruled that Triple C duo be put to their defense even after the state had failed to prove a case against the two. Lawyers representing Mamombe and Chimbiri then approached the High Court to the shame of the state and the magistrate.
We had filed an application for review against the decision of Magistrate Mushure, in which she had placed Joanna Mamombe and Cecilia Chimbiri on their defense. In our application for review, we were arguing that the magistrate was wrong in her decision because no evidence had been laid before her to warrant their placement on their defense, and therefore she ought to have rightly acquitted them at the close of the state case. So that is the argument that we took before the High Court judge, and fortunately the High Court agreed with us and ruled in our favor. As a result, Joanna Mamombe and Cecilia Chimbiri were found not guilty and were acquitted at the close of the state case. The clients are elated that finally they have been vindicated after a long while. They lament, though, the length of time that it took for them to be vindicated. Their battle from the first day was to fight for their justice, and at each and every turn they explored all possible legal routes to have justice work in their favor. It has taken long, but finally they have the relief that they were seeking for, and for that they are quite pleased.
Well, the High Court confirmed what everybody knew, certainly what the citizens knew, i.e. that Joanna Mamombe, Cecilia Chimbiri, and indeed Natsai Marova are all innocent. In fact, they are the victims of state-sponsored torture, sexual assault, and violence. We all saw evidence shortly after they were abducted of what took place. And unfortunately, instead of the perpetrators being brought to book, they were the ones who were persecuted maliciously, unjustly, and unconstitutionally for 3 years. Now, it's a matter of regret that the prosecution says it wants to try and appeal. We saw the unprecedented step of them issuing a press statement, which points to political involvement and interference. The Constitution is very clear. Everybody is entitled to equal treatment before the law. The prosecution never does this for any other accused person. Why these ones? And so obviously what we continue to say is that, a Triple C government will restore the rule of law in Zimbabwe, will restore justice for everyone, and will ensure the Constitution is upheld as against any citizen who's brought before the court.
Independent presidential candidate Xavier Kasukuwere continues to campaign from the safety of South Africa 3 weeks after successfully filing his nomination papers. While in his absence, former ZANU-PF Youth Commissar Godfrey Tsenengamo is holding the fort as the national coordinator. Last weekend, Tsenengamo held a press conference on behalf of his boss, whom he helped chase out of the country during the coup. Immediately, ZANU-PF, which has been in 6s and 7s over Kasukuwere, held a press conference dedicated to attacking Kasukuwere. Christopher Muchangwa, the ZANU-PF spokesperson, joined his wife Monica Muchangwa, the ZANU-PF Women's League Secretary of Administration, in attacking their political commissar. Let's take a listen.
That is why the detractors have resorted to creating a phantom candidate, because they feel that there is a yawning gap in the ranks of the opposition And you know who the phantom candidate is? None other Savior Kasukuwere. He is being touted as a candidate. We are saying, until you put your feet on the ground and start campaigning in Zimbabwe, we don't view you as a candidate. Trying to have press to appear to campaign on the South African press. You are not appealing to the voter in Zimbabwe. There is no voting booth at SABC in South Africa.
We are moving with our presidential candidate, who happens to be none other than Comrade Savior Kasukuwere. Zimbabwe, you are aware that there has been some issues surrounding his candidature, where there has been doubts over whether he's going to be a candidate or not, where there has been speculation whether he's going to participate or whether he's going to be in Zimbabwe to participate physically, and some other issues.
Top human rights lawyer Obey Shava was brutally assaulted and left for dead along Snowdon Road in Belvedere. Shava, who is working with opposition Triple C to flush out double-nominated candidates, was hospitalized after the attack. Close friend Jeremiah Bamu speaks on the attack.
We share quite a number of cases with Mr. Shava, given his human rights background, and coincidentally, he also took part in the defense the defense of Joanna Mamombe, Cecilia Chimbiri, and Netsai Marova. If you recall, he was attacked together with his clients when they were leaving the Harare Magistrates Court on their way to Harare Central Police Station to comply with reporting conditions that had been imposed against Joanna Mamombe, Cecilia Chimbiri, and Netsai Marova. So this is not the first time that this lawyer has been attacked. Firstly, it was so clear that the people who attacked him were government officials in the form of soldiers and security personnel. That was back then. In this particular incident, he was attacked by unknown assailants, but the proximity of his attack and the acquittal of Joanna Mamombe and Cecilia Chimbiri will leave so many issues unanswered, particularly the non-resolution of the first incident of attack that was meted against him. I went and visited him in his hospital upon his admission after the assaults. He is badly injured and he was in great pain, but he's soldiering on and his spirit as a human rights lawyer remains unshaken.
President Mnangagwa has upped his elections campaign by opening and reopening businesses, mines, and other social facilities to shore up his chances for re-election. Wangai Kawa filed this report.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa is pulling no stops in his bid for re-election as he goes around the country opening and reopening mining projects and dams ahead of the August 23 general elections. He was cutting ribbons at the $300 million United States Prospect Lithium mine in Goromonzi. The mine, which is owned by a Chinese company, will have the capacity to produce 4.5 million tons of lithium per year for the next 12 years. Mnangagwa said the investment had come due to his open for business mantra.
Comrades and friends, it is my singular honor and privilege to be back here at Prospect, this time to commission the US $300 million Prospect Lithium Zimbabwe spodumene, petalite and tantalum processing plant. I recall that in November 2018, we convened here when this area was merely an empty field for the groundbreaking ceremony commencing initial work at this site. In June 2021, we were back here again to commission the pilot petalite processing plant, which was a precursor to this bigger and more advanced, sophisticated processing plant, with a total capacity of 4.5 million tons per year. As we look back, Prospect Lithium Zimbabwe is one of the main testimonies of the successes of the Second Republic under the Zimbabwe is open for business mantra and the engagement and re-engagement policy.
Mnangagwa said he had spoken to traditional chiefs to extend the lifespan of the mine from 12 years to 50 years.
You have told me that the lifespan of lithium here is 12 years. I've asked the chiefs to make the lithium extend to another 40 years.
As the Chinese extract the lithium and make billions, Mnangagwa asked the Chinese to drill boreholes for locals so that they can grow vegetables.
Going forward, I challenge Prospect Lithium Zimbabwe to also prioritize borehole drilling for surrounding communities to enable our people to undertake income-generating nutritional gardens and horticulture projects. In fact, to avoid you going to town to buy your vegetables and tomatoes and onions, make bowls around the community. They can grow all those things, so just buy after work.
Zimbabwe is a mineral-rich country which has over the years attracted lots of investors who have exploited its diamonds, chrome, gold, copper, and recently lithium, but its people have nothing or little to show for its wealth. Despite boasting of a 12 billion United States of America dollar mining economy, the local currency is crumbling. Vongai Kawa, HSTV News and Current Affairs, Goromonzi.
The House of Lords has raised concerns over the continued pre-trial incarceration of university students who stand accused of demonstrating and defacing buildings in solidarity with jailed legislator Job Sikala. Zimbabwean leaders have been accused of trampling on basic human rights and violating citizens' constitutional rights to stay in power.
The Minister, I'm grateful to him for his reply about Job Sikala, but it's not just Job Sikala who has been arrested. 6 students have been arrested as well for doing nothing more than actually protesting against politicians being arrested themselves. Emmanuel Chichima, Comfort Mapufu, Nandal Madamombi, Benjamin Watazda, Donington Chiwenga, Gamuchirai Chamburu Munda. Students, exotic names, my lords, but they're not being kept in exotic conditions. They're in prison for protesting perfectly legally and freely.
On a sad note, the founder and bishop of Zayoja Faith Ministries, Ezekiel Guti, died this week at the ripe age of 100. Guti turned the church into a formidable force straddling the education and health sector. Many, including President Mnangagwa, Triple C, and many prominent individuals, have consoled the family and church for their loss. Calls for the late Guti to be declared a national hero are growing louder.
Like in the case of some musicians who have been declared national heroes. So it is for that reason why we really had to say we need to take note that Archbishop Guti is indeed a deserving personality to receive such a recognition. And we have since communicated this to government through directly with the Office of the President and Cabinet.
Now let's turn to the social media video of the week. Thank you for joining us on HSTV News, Newsday, The Standard, and the Zimbabwe Independent. It's me, Unique Zimuto, and the crew behind the scenes signing out. We wish you all a good night and a lovely weekend ahead. Join us again same time next week, and please don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel, and of course set up notifications so that you don't miss out on our incisive reporting.